bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on SiriusXM FC.
Welcome, everyone, to a new hot and fresh edition of USL All Access. A very happy Tuesday. Wherever you might be, we've got 4 weeks left in the USL Championship season. Most teams down to just 4 games remaining. A handful still have 5. We've got a new wooden spoon winner, and boy, howdy, did they earn it. We may well hand out the Player Shield this week, and that would be a new winner of that trophy as well. We've got plenty of results to look back on. We'll get you set up for one of the final weeks of the year. There's a ton on the line. Only Miami eliminated. That might be a great place to start. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr, Emmett McConnell at the controls. Dev, for some reason you're wearing look-alike denim today. Is there a particular reason that you felt the need to look like a rodeo farmhand?
First of all, this is one of the best kits the USL Championship has ever put out. It is courtesy of El Paso Locomotive. I'm going to use my handy-dandy controller here for everybody at SiriusXM FC at home. It's delightful. It's called the Vaquero kit, and it's designed to honor the Western and Latino culture of El Paso. It's got what looks like, yes, denim embroidery, but Hummel, Southwest University on the front. The sides well done with the sponsorships. They were kind enough to add a little flair on the backside with my name as well as 24, which is the year. I like the USL in the numbers themselves. Estrella, of course, Jalisco, one of their sponsors too. It's celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month is the reason that they put the jersey out. It's a limited edition. They actually auctioned player-worn jerseys off, and all of the benefits wow. This is a mouthful for me at the beginning.
All of the proceeds
benefited, and stay with me. I already got tongue-tied. Texas Tech Health El Paso Fox Cancer Center Patient Fund. That's why I was tongue-tied. I apologize. We're workshopping the name. All for a great cause, most importantly, a magnificent jersey. You may not be a fan, but this is certainly one of my favorites, and also I love the collar, because it's got the perfect pop to it. And then if you roll it down, it's still got the accent piece, but it's not like, oh, it's in the way, it's too much of a collar. In case anybody wonders, Mike, are you aware of what my favorite championship jersey ever is? You should know.
The old Bethlehem Steel?
Exactly. That's why, you don't even have to give him a hint. He just recognizes that the white with the blue.
The collar. I've never seen a jersey that Devon was more likely to wear through downtown Delray Beach, Florida, than that one. And so I'm very excited to see you in the back of a police cruiser wearing that very soon.
Why am I in the back of a police cruiser with this on?
Because that thing screams, get yourself into trouble.
That happened once, and it was a long time ago, and that there's a whole show dedicated to that somewhere. The reason why you can't find it is because we never released it.
That's been expunged. All right, Dev, let's chat about trophies. How about we start with the wooden spoon winner for a moment? Because now we can actually say this Miami team was horrible. They were
now you're saying it?
They were truly terrible for 8 months. And in every possible way, they have earned the wooden spoon. They get demolished. Not the whole game. As much of the season went, it wasn't like they started in a 2-goal hole. They lose 4-0 to Indy 11. El Paso wins their game against North Carolina. They're bad, but they're young, and they didn't have a plan, and they brought players in late again. And I don't blame Antonio Nocerino. I really don't. This was from the beginning ill-fated. And ultimately, Miami wins the only trophy of their championship era in the worst of ways. And goodness gracious, I hope there's more intent next year. whatever you felt about Anthony Pulis, exciting brand of football or not, you brought this on
Vision.
yourself. Yeah,
Idea. They
at
had
least
an
he knew
idea.
what he was trying to do.
So I want to go back here for a second. I agree with everything that you said. Nocerino, don't think it's his fault. I think this is an organization problem. I think it starts from the top. Let me rephrase that. Think means it's a general idea of one person. I know, you know, the community knows. This starts at the top. 2020, so that people understand how bad this year is. That was the first year of this Miami FC team. 16 games played, 16 points. Michael, because I want to keep staring at the camera for effect, and I don't want the view to change, can you please read out loud how many points they had? I know it's 11. And how many games they've played?
Well, Dev, they've played 30, and I was going to ask you this later, but let's do it now. They finish at Louisville, home Pittsburgh, at Detroit, at Rhode Island.
0 for 4.
Yeah.
0 for 4. Not even a question. Negative 46 goal differential. They've got more points per game in a 16-game season in COVID in 2020 than this year.
I think the crazy thing for me is, yeah, a lot of Series C guys and young guys, but I loved the fact that they were moving some games to the soccer stadium that fit a little bit better, and it wasn't going to feel like, playing at Pitbull Stadium, Mr. Worldwide Stadium,
305.
not optimal, right? I thought maybe there was some juice there, and at times you could tell that they wanted a more attacking brand of football and that maybe they were on the cusp of it. You'd probably go back to May, the last time I went, hey, there might be something here. And it quickly became obvious there was not.
Go bigger. Go bigger picture than that. 2020, so we're 5 years in.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how quickly I did that math off the top of my head.
Great job.
Have you ever been, and again, I'm not talking about coaches, because to your point, Anthony Pulis, vision, idea, their identity was set. Agree or disagree, it was there, and they found success through it. Dalglish, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Two very different coaches, two very different identities, still both found success within those systems. Respectfully, has there been a bigger waste of funds in the past 5 seasons? They're not struggling for money. Budget isn't an issue. I mean, dear Lord, as much, what's the right word to use here without getting fired? As little as Detroit has to their disposal.
Why are they catching a stray?
No, they're not. They wipe the floor with Miami FC when it comes to consistency, when it comes to identity, and the belief that they are going to find success in what they are doing. That starts from the top. Detroit's got 2 different coaches since they've come in.
I'm going to throw 2 things at you. I look at the roster for Miami. How many of those guys, forget starting, would have played 1,000 minutes anywhere else in the league? And I'm looking and I'm going 5, 6.
Yeah.
It's a bad team. It's just a bad team.
I don't think they're 11 points negative 46 bad, buddy. I don't.
Yeah. I'll also say this. How many times did Anthony Pulis indicate, I'm bringing this guy so I don't get fined? As 100%, in, I needed 100%. An 18th guy.
And you know what? It reminded me of the conversation with Steve Churchu at St. Louis, right?
At Colorado Springs, too. He
For
went
sure
through
as
the
well.
same thing there.
For sure as well.
Both and Anthony and Steve had that problem in St. Louis.
Yeah, and it was, we have to do this because we don't have that, and we need to make sure that we are being compliant with roster rules on game day. Miami doesn't have that problem.
We are almost past that being a potential issue in this league, because in 2016, not paying for an extra hotel room really actually did weigh on some owners.
It was massive.
Thought process.
Massive. Not living together, not paying for insurance, not paying for homes, not paying for food. Like all of that stuff was real. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Mike, true or false? Put me in charge of that team. Put you in charge of that team. You could do better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitively. I'll take myself out of it, who has played professionally, who has seen behind the scenes, who knows all of what goes on. And I'm not saying you don't. You know and hear all of those conversations. You could have managed and compiled a better roster, or at least more importantly, managed this group better.
Mm-hmm.
The city, the team deserve better. Move on, please. Thank you.
They do. All right, Dev, the big game of the weekend, you and I got a chance to call it, ended up being a dud for half of this. Sacramento 4, New Mexico nothing. This was the final game of the weekend. National TV spotlight. The teams had played 10 days earlier in Albuquerque, 3-1 win for New Mexico, and it wasn't, especially in the second half, really that close. What a statement from the Republic, right? So we said 2 weeks ago on this show, I said, if Sacramento won both of the games against New Mexico, there was a path for them to win the West. Had they done that, it would be a 4-point gap with 4 games to go, and Sac would have a game in hand. But they botched the first one. So now this is about, for Sacramento, not the 1 seed, just trying to hold on to the 2. They jump Las Vegas and Colorado Springs, move back into second place. Cicerone scores in the 6th, although I don't know that he knew a whole hell of a lot about it. Felipe in the 25th. Aldair Sanchez in the 54th, and then Kieran Phillips now 5 goal contributions in the last 5 games in the 69th. New Mexico does not clinch the 1 seed. Dev, let's start with Sacramento. First of all, statement made. Someone must have said something about Lee Desmond's mother. This dude. This dude.
I didn't know where you were going to lead with there.
This dude was out to light the world on fire, and that was pervasive for Sacramento. They were embarrassed in Albuquerque, and they absolutely put New Mexico to the sword from the opening minute of this game. It's not that New Mexico
embarrassed second half.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, they had a chance to go take the 1 seed, and they didn't. And they didn't come remotely close to it. And as a result, payback 10 days later, started with Lee Desmond crunching some dudes and landed on goals really in every facet. Scored in transition, scored breaking them down in half field, scored off a set piece. That's what Sacramento needed. The mojo's back. Maybe.
Energy from the get-go, for sure. And I can't hear mojo without thinking about Friday Night Lights, by the way.
Clear eyes. Full heart.
So, energy, physicality, positive direction of play, which was interesting to me because Eric Crow was very clear about the opportunity to win this game was going to reside in the fact that they were going to stay condensed and they were going to make Sacramento play. Number one, that didn't happen on a consistent basis. This game was wide open and Sac lit them up. Not even a question. Every single ball, tackle, step was much faster from Sacramento Republic than it was for New Mexico. Context. Zico Bailey out in warmups. That hurt them. Marco Micheletto nursing a knee. Didn't bring him. Those two massive pieces within the midfield. But even beyond that, New Mexico United lacked width. Thought they tried to play the game too much, Mike. You know, like what's it? Let the bull buck you, right?
Sometimes it makes sense with the shirt, yeah.
Sometimes you just got to let it go. Mm-hmm. And it felt like, much like in broadcasting, when we're trying to be stubborn and you start a story and play gets in the way and you come back to it and it's disrupted again and you're just doing everything you can to get in the way and get that story in because you're so stubborn, but you didn't need to. All we had to do was be quiet and let the game go, right? I'm not talking about this game. I'm saying we've all had those situations. New Mexico, all they had to do, just let it go a little bit. Stop fighting the identity that was death by 1,000 touches at times, and they would have had a better opportunity here. Instead, Mike, the entirety of the first half, how many times did they cross midfield? Twice? 3 times?
Yeah, can I just say, I think I just caught a stray bullet in the leg.
No. When I made that example about broadcasting, I was saying generalities for everyone. Everybody in broadcasting has been in that situation where sometimes it's just better to let the moment go. You get back onto the flow of the show.
I think it's time that you and I have an on-air beef about something, anything.
What?
And this might be it, all right?
What? Well, I wasn't directing that at you. That's not fair.
This is a fatwa. No, New Mexico, but you and I talked about this during the game. Sacramento had I wouldn't say this level, but really, really good first half. And New Mexico is slow to it in Albuquerque.
But didn't score.
They did not score. And this time they did.
And interestingly enough, when we talked about that throughout the game, what did we say going into the dressing room? Obviously, the biggest difference was goals, number one, but I also said, you agreed, the game was far from over. Look at what we just saw 10 days ago or whatever, a week, or who knows? I can't count. And be fearful of what the second half might be. So to your point, Lee Desmond, who the bone-crunching tackles hurt me, and I was on the other side of the country doing this game remotely. He was physical, and the one-on-one marking was amazing. I thought Connor Donovan, who has not had a great year, in my opinion, did very well for himself throughout the match. Just let it be, stay organized, control that back three. Jared Timmer, thought was incredible once again. I think with the ball at his feet, the things that he can do, recognizing moments on both, I believe it was the second goal. Yes, his little cutback to the inside that then set up Jack Gurr, who put it on his left foot. And who knew Jack Gurr could knock a ball with his left foot that well into the box? Hold up for Herrera, Fernandez. Third or fourth goal, same thing for Jared Timmer. Midfield, organized. Luis Felipe, the most aggressive I've seen him since April, May, right around their run into the quarterfinals of the Open Cup once again. Front line, again. This was the Sacramento team that everybody knows they are capable of being. We just haven't seen it for a couple of months. And I'm going to say this, just so that everybody understands what could be coming. Mike and I, and we've discussed this on the show before, historically, we go back as we enter postseason play, and we look at the best teams in the final 10-game stretches. Normally, the final 10 games of the year, the winners are coming from the top 5 or 6 teams. And people go, oh, yeah, they've got the best record. It's nothing to do with record. What it has to do with is quality of play. The way that this season plans out is I'm going to go in preseason. In the offseason, I'm going to get some guys. In preseason, we're going to get some more. Here's what it might look like. And it's a wet paper towel that you throw on the wall, and it's this big mess of a ton of talent and a million different ideas. And okay, how do we fine-tune what is going on within all of that conversation? Then you get 10, 12 games in and say, okay, we can clean up some of this mess. And you use your hand and you wipe it up a little bit. Okay? And it starts to clean itself up and it looks a little bit nicer. Then you really start to gain momentum in midseason, but you have to adjust a little bit. Okay, we need some help on the front line. You know what? We're banged up on the back line. We need more width. Let's go out in the transfer market. Let's get a trade going. When you approach the final 10 games of the year, this is about taking what you have and getting the best out of the sum of all your parts. Okay? You fine-tune 10, 12, 14 guys tops. Those guys are going to take you the way. And that's why you find out what the best record is. Sacramento Republic have the opportunity to do that. That's the best I've seen them since April, maybe early May, possibly all season long.
Yep.
And that is the first time since then, 6 months, that I can look at you and say, if that level continues, they can challenge for a title. I'm off my soapbox.
The wet paper towel comment is definitely the father of 3 boys. But Dev, before we go to break, because I don't
real
think
quick, would you have preferred a Jackson Pollock reference of just a massive ink blot on the wall, and then as you used a rag to clean it up, that it started to work itself into a Da Vinci? That probably would have been better, huh?
Well, the mind games, that'd be the father of 3 girls, but that's neither here nor there.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Dev, I don't think we need to talk a whole heck of a lot about this, but before we go to break, New Mexico United is still going to win the West. They are still going to win the West. This probably inhibits their ability to have any shot at catching Louisville, but the odds of that were minimal going into the game anyways. Based on our understanding, 1 seed should get to host any 2, 3, 4, whatever in the East.
Seeding over points.
Correct. And with that in mind, now it's just about getting it right. Here's the banana peel. I hope New Mexico gets all the fire that they need in their belly to move forward. I'm not worried about them at all. I imagine you're not either.
No, not whatsoever. It's a one-off. The reason they call it consistent is because you're able to replicate all of the great ideas, do it over and over at an efficient level. There's no question. They're the best in the West. Okay? They had a bad game. And we said this on air. You had a bad game. I'm almost tempted to walk in if I'm Eric Quill and going, did you get that you-know-what out of your system? Great. We got a couple of games left to finish off the year. We're still the best team in the West. Everybody still has to come to our house in the playoffs. And they have been nearly untouchable. Top 4 in the league, to be clear. Top 5 as a road team, to be clear. We've been almost perfect at home. You got to come here. And then we'll see what happens on the East side. And maybe they're hosting a final. You never know.
All right, speaking of the East, we're going to recap the big games of the weekend throughout the conference, including Louisville getting on the cusp of moving into the Players' Shield Pantheon. Also, no game in Tampa Bay this weekend. A quick, heartfelt well wishes to everyone that's dealing with Hurricane Helene. Obviously, widespread, devastating impacts from the Florida Big Bend, flooding in St. Pete, all the way up through horrific images in the Carolinas and up in Appalachia. The Rowdies match postponed against Hartford on Saturday night. It'll get handled whenever it gets handled. And anyone who doesn't understand why, because I saw this floating around Twitter, why they would postpone that game needs to take a long walk off a short pier. When we come back, Eastern Conference, we'll talk the West too at some point. It's next on USL All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back. It's USL All Access. Mike Watts and Devon Kerr walking you through the week in the Eastern Conference in the USL Championship. All right, there's a month to go in the season, Devon, and we may be able to finally nail down the Players' Shield. To call it a foregone conclusion for the last month is probably selling Charleston a little bit short, but the fact that the top two is largely kept pace with one another has kept this alive a little bit longer than some probably anticipated the way Louisville was running through the summer. Louisville, a 4-2 win over Memphis. They went behind in this game 2-0. Bruno Lapa, 2 goals, 14th, 18th minute. It's Bruno. Bless Tyler Derrick's heart. This man leans down and ties his boot. Man, time wasting in Louisville does not go the way you think. Louisville sees a little red. You don't like them when they're angry. They go into halftime leading 3-2. Harris 25, Taylor Davila brace 1 before and after half. Elijah Winder scores in the final seconds of the first half. Louisville will host Miami, go to Indy. Charleston plays on Saturday before Louisville, so Louisville may take the field as the Shield winner on Saturday night. If not, they'll have every chance to go win it. Good on Louisville. That Memphis team is a handful.
100%. Would say that the moment where all of the stadium went berserk reminded me of the Braveheart scene where he just stands up and he goes. So everybody went nuts, and it was quite funny, actually. I thought it was funny. You didn't think it was funny?
Sure. No, great.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Glad you're so excited about the funny point that I brought up that you didn't think it was funny. Yes, Memphis a handful. To me, the bigger storyline here isn't Louisville coming back and demolishing them at the end of the day because they ran them off the field. It's Memphis's opportunity in the top 4 that is continuing to slip away in the Western Conference with as tight as things have been. And Las Vegas just picking up points, man. They're picking up points. And I'm not saying it because, I've said to you, that's a top 4 team. I'm saying it because as we keep looking here, it's funny. It's the exact opposite of the conversation we just had with Sacramento Republic and trying to be one of the best in the Final 10. Memphis is trending the other direction right now. We had John Becerra on last week, and there's real belief within that locker room. There are plenty of footballers. I just haven't seen the fight out of that team in the past couple of weeks. And it is one of the things that will get you over the line when it comes playoff time in the postseason. Louisville's going to win the one. It's not a question. I agree with you that, yes, it's not been foregone. It's really only tightened itself up in the past 10 days to 2 weeks, really, because of the way the results have panned out. And to be clear, Charleston mathematically still have a chance. New Mexico does too, but it ain't happening. And for a team that's only lost once all season long with 3 remaining games, you'd be hard-pressed to find that they're going to drop games at Holy Family, right? Yeah. So anyway, does Memphis get top 4, Mike?
Not the way they're playing right now, especially, obviously we were going to talk West later. Las Vegas has 1 loss in 18. 18 games, 1 loss. They're not gonna hand it to you.
No. You know what it does remind me a little bit of, though, and I will say this about Vegas. While stylistically different, the personnel in terms of character are similar. It reminds me of the 2020 Reno team a little bit.
Ooh.
And the reason I say that is that team was more wide open. They weren't as comfortable on the ball, but Ian Russell, they were good and they were explosive in the final third. They gave them the ability from the outside back position to get up high. But I always felt like in those Reno games, Mike, like this is where the similarity comes in. I never felt like they were going to be run off the field, but I never truly felt like they were destroying teams. They never really had their backs up against the wall to go and be, we are the best team out here, but also, we can, when we're not at our best, we can find a way to go get it. I feel a little bit that with Vegas. And maybe, you know what I think it is? I think it's probably the youth, to be fair.
I would suggest with Reno, I think in 2020 we sort of went, the wild, wild west. I don't know that, I think that played like they blew out Galaxy too, and you're kind of like, yeah, that checks out.
I mean,
but they did have some numbers, but like the year prior they had like 70 goals. I mean, that was no joke.
Was that 19 or was that 17?
I think both.
Okay, well there you go.
That team.
Ready for this? Just hear me out when I make that comment. Listen to this team for a second, okay? The back line. Bo Burry, by the way, started in goal. Back line. Janjigian, Gleedle, Timmer, Richards.
Wow.
Serviceable.
Yeah.
For sure. Not guys that you're necessarily going to look at and go, game winners, right? Midfield, holding midfielders. Sergio Rivas, Kevin Partita. Rivas, I'll give him more fire. He's got some angry heat in that belly. Partita, meh. Same thing, like clean on the ball, works it, good at touches, does well through the system. Francois Herzog. Who is this outside? Tucker Bone. What a shout. Tucker Bone on the wing. Anyway, same thing though.
Some moments.
He had some moments. Yeah. We've all had our moments, Mike. You told everybody earlier that I've obviously ended up in the back of a car. Foster Langsdorff, he had bite in the 9 position. When I'm going, though, like the cast of characters I just gave you, again, to me, like those are guys who had a little bit more experience. But yeah, Vegas is, they don't have that huge bite. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's going to come with time. And that could be just what they need. They could hit the playoffs and they have a game where, oh my God, it's not going our way, and they find it. Over that 18-game stretch that has only 1 loss, they have, in my humble opinion, they have never really been put to the sword.
Mike Watts, Devon Kerr wearing a shirt that reminds you he didn't hear no stinking bell. Dev, by the way, the team, there are people listening like, man, what team is this? This is exciting. They've been extinct for 4 years. So this show digresses.
Ian
harder
Russell
than-
is not, by the way. I'm
No,
looking forward to
not
speaking to
extinct.
him in San Jose on the weekend.
Gosh, I hope he.
I mean, San Jose is basically extinct, so.
I hope he gets a chance. Also, John Fisher, stop. Go back to owning the Gap. No one's
Dude,
no
did he own
one's
the Gap?
interested in sports ownership from
Did he own the Gap?
that is a Fisher family.
Was it just the Gap, or was he part of the Gap Limited Old Navy, Banana Republic? Was he part of the conglomerate or just the Gap?
I don't know, but I mean, his ownership run in Oakland was so bad that I think he was the reason they changed the Gap logo. Like Fruit of the Loom, some logos weren't meant to change. It's just wrong. It's wrong.
What's that called? Cornucopia?
Yeah, well, I dropped that into a game this week and got some odd looks.
Vamos.
Charleston had the weekend off. Notable from last week, they played Tampa Bay. Aaron Malloy is back. Came off the bench. Obviously, they went and got Jay Chapman to sort of fill that gap. 4 games for him to get fit, and if he does, you know, you don't want any piece of Charleston in the postseason. No one does. If there's good news for Louisville, it's that you get to host them instead, and home was
the only
pretty
good
decisive.
News.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the only good news. Again, I've said this before, but right now, and again, I know we're coming off New Mexico United, but New Mexico at home, I'll take Colorado Springs either side, Charleston and Louisville either side. There are those 4 teams. I wouldn't want to play them right now.
All right. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay will have the game in hand now after their game got pushed. Detroit 2-0 win at Monterey Bay. Rutz always seems to find his way in at the end of the year, doesn't he? More on the Great Western Pillow fight coming up. Indy, the 4-0 win over Miami that we mentioned earlier. Birmingham and Loudoun both end up splitting the spoils. Loudoun bookends a 1-1 draw at Colorado Springs, which everyone would agree that's a good result. Birmingham goes to Pittsburgh. They get a point. Stefano Pino equalizer. Both those teams come from behind and grab something. Rhode Island, a 3-1 win at San Antonio. And so between 6, 7, and 8, not a ton of movement. Rhode Island able to pull away a bit. Hartford were supposed to go to Tampa. They remain on 7 unbeaten. We'll have the game in hand. And then North Carolina slips on the ultimate banana peel. Joaquin Rivas, 90+2 Penn. El Paso wins at home. El Paso more of the ball, more opportunities. North Carolina only 2 shots on target in the game. That could be a dagger for them. And Pittsburgh only takes the singular point against Birmingham at home. They both remain beneath the playoff line. All right, when we come back, the West. We talked about the top 2, but that's just where the fun begins. We're talking pillow fights next on USL All Access.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back on USL All Access. This is the nexus point of great fashion and pillow fight conversations in the beautiful game. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr. Devon, the crazy thing is you're wearing that jersey. I didn't get nothing about my Rob Lowe hat choice. When you rep the league, I mean, I'm a shill, baby.
How is it? You know what? We're bringing this up real quick.
Proceeds from this go nowhere.
How is it possible there's not a better hat? The colors are magical. Now, mind you, that one, the gray, yeah, and working all the leagues in, that's difficult. But like black hat totally changes all that. White hat totally changes all of that. I'm pointing to the side because I'm staring at you in the monitor over here.
Yeah.
But even with the championship, Charlie has got to be rocking some cool shoes or cool hats because I love that quarter zip that we have.
Yeah.
It's delightful.
I know. It's Charlie put some really good stuff out this year.
They are taking over.
Yeah.
The Gamekis. All the players love it. I was talking to John Baccaro before the interview last week, and he was talking about what quality that equipment is. I like it.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking on Hummel. It's just Charlie's the league sponsor.
Okay, true enough. All right.
Pillow talk.
Let's hold that for one moment because really the great pillow fight is sitting now between 7th and 11th.
Sure.
All right. We mentioned New Mexico, Sacramento. That was a complete and utter blowout, 4-0 Sacramento. Still a 10-point gap. New Mexico is going to win the West. That's abundantly clear for the regular season. We mentioned in the last segment, Colorado Springs 1-1 draw. That's back-to-back draws for them. It was El Paso on the road. Now it's home against Loudoun. Is that a wobble? Is there anything to that causes grand concern? I mean, I know you've had them on a, I don't want to say pedestal, but you've been well aware they're competing.
They're very good. Yeah, they're a title contender. I think it's a wobble. I will say the only thing to me that comes out of that game, obviously you get points if you're Colorado Springs still, is the Loudoun game, is that to me, I actually think it puts a little bit more pressure on Hartford. And the reason I say that is Hartford didn't have their game. Now they're tied on points. Like, Colorado Springs would have done them a favor there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, with Brendan Burke coming from it and the boys working together, just a joke. But they could have been tied on points. Instead, it's the 1 point. It's like dangling there. I just think it makes it a little bit more difficult to me mentally. Yeah. Other than that, nothing.
It's a wee little dangling participle. All
Gotta
right.
be quicker than that.
You got it, indeed. Las Vegas 2-1 win over Phoenix. Not very good attendance out in the desert this weekend. Saw a lot of photos of that floating around. Losing to Las Vegas 2 years ago would be a reason for a revolt. Losing to them this year, I would take a seat on that. It's a little more complex than you think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would also say that we addressed some of this last week in that Phoenix having, what was it, back-to-back wins, just double-checking that before I get myself into trouble. Yeah, 2 wins and 3, sorry. Now back-to-back losses. Said that the team was in need of a little bit more positive support. I don't think the fans are wrong for everything that they are feeling, and certainly not everything that they are saying. But lest we forget, this team is still in a playoff position, which means a postseason berth is right there. Not asking people to remove all of the white noise. I am asking them to say that, yes, they were on 48 points last year when they finished the regular season, which was in 6th, which got them to a title. And while virtually, as we are speaking, they can get to 51, 5 wins in a row does not right the ship for Phoenix Rising. I'm just saying that in the moment, right now, this team needs you. Whether it's attendance, whether it's being more positive with your voices on social media, I would just like to see a little bit more support for the players, not discrediting everything else around them, but help this group. Once again, it's a cry for help. Help this team get over the line. Give them some confidence, because this team can still make a postseason run. The West is that much of a disaster. Let's be very clear. It is up for grabs. Help get your team over the line into the postseason.
All right, so Las Vegas beats Phoenix on the road. Again, 1 loss in 18. Rarely do you see that, especially with a team that young. That they're able to have that kind of consistency. Memphis, mentioned earlier, 4-2 loss at Louisville City. They sit on 43 points in 5th. That puts them 8 points above the line, 9 points above 9th place. They're still only, 4 points off of 2nd, but feels like a long road for them. Here's where the pillow fight starts. 6th through 12th, every single team dropped points 2 weeks ago. Every single one. That's why I called it a pillow fight. It's as if no one wants to play in the playoffs. Oakland has lost 4 games in a row now. So they fall 1-0 at home against Tulsa on Sunday. Ouch. 2-0 at Hartford last week. 1-0 against San Antonio at home. 5-0 at North Carolina. Their last win was 1-0 at home against New Mexico, of all teams.
Go figure.
They have not scored in over 4 games. They're minus 15 in goal difference. And yet they've had moments where you're like, damn, they're going to be hard to beat in a playoff. That's not their moment right now.
7 teams in that conversation.
Sorry, El Paso.
35 games. Great jersey. Bad season. 35 games over the last 5 between the two. There are 9 wins within all 7 of those teams. There are 3 teams that have won 2 games in that 5-game window. Phoenix, Orange County, San Antonio. There's 1 team who has no win, Monterey Bay, and then everybody else has 1. You talk about Oakland, about moments and could be difficult in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt that way. I've never felt that way since they came in. And to be clear, they pulled off arguably one of the biggest upsets in postseason history with their victory over El Paso Locomotive at Southwest University Park. Remember that at one point in time, they were like 50-3 or some stupid record at home. They were unbeatable.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong there. I don't. Since, you know what? Here you go. Ever since the sack game, Mike, the 5-2, ever since that game, that team is.
They were
I don't know why.
third. They were third at that point in time.
And they
to
held on to a top 4 a lot longer than that, too.
They did. You made reference then, like, good team will make the playoffs, like a playoff team. But I think we were always skeptical at best of third.
And they still will make the playoffs in all of this debauchery that is the bottom of the Western Conference, which is interesting because they're in 6th, but they're only 6 points above the playoff line. Like, if you told me Tulsa went on a run and won 5 in a row and Oakland missed out, I wouldn't be surprised. That's how disastrous this Western Conference is. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think Tulsa dug themselves a pretty deep hole, and I do see them getting over the line, and it's probably at the expense of a Phoenix Rising or Orange County, probably Orange County. But
yep. Anyway. 6 up, 5 to go for Oakland. Here's where the pillow fight starts. Phoenix
Again,
and Orange
you already
County.
said it once.
No, but I want to, give me a minute. Phoenix, Orange County hold playoff spots on 36 and 35 points respectively. They're both on 29 points. 29 games played, sorry. Tulsa and San Antonio, 34-31. Monterey Bay now at 30 points, are all within 5 points of the playoffs with either 4 or 5 games remaining. Dev, I looked up great pillow fights of cinema. The hot chick
this to another level.
The hot chick, Rob Schneider, right?
Yeah.
I
great
mean,
actor.
just murder and great actor.
Yeah, love him as an actor. He plays a variety of roles. Yeah.
You can do it.
This guy went from a server who got his stomach stapled to a male gigolo to a homeless guy in a football movie about yeah. I won't say what it's about, but think about it, man. Dude, that guy, let's go back. One of my favorite movies ever. Rob Schneider is the friend in 3 Ninjas. Not 3 Ninjas.
I think Rob Schneider's greatest.
There we go. Surf Ninjas.
His greatest role was actually in is it Mr. Deeds? Where he ends up driving the convertible into a tree or something at the end of a
dude, you know who that is? That's not Rob Schneider. That is from Reservoir Dogs. This show has taken a massive turn. No, it's what's his name? Dude, he was in Reservoir Dogs, he was in Armageddon. Google that.
I'm confident Rob Schneider is in this too, because they gave him
I know he's in it. I know he's in
it. Look, Community did entire episodes.
Steve Buscemi.
Yes! Oh yeah.
Steve Buscemi, cross-eyed. He gets Oreos on his pizza.
Yeah, that's right. Community on NBC.
That's the pizza Corey Herzog would order.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
He's a big kid. Community on NBC has had whole episodes about this. Scary Movie 4 does a good spoof on a good pillow fight. Ted Lasso at one point, I believe, pillow fighting. I've watched the whole show, and I don't remember that, but it says so online. But Dev,
so it's true. You know it's true.
Yeah, it's the internet. Monterey Bay, no knock on Jordan Stewart, start over next year. I'm pretty sure that's done. Now
Five
they're
back
not
four to
mathematically.
play. They're out.
Yeah, I mean the adage, right? And we talk about this within pro soccer. Everyone says if there are more points that you need to get than games remaining to get where you want to go, you're probably not going to get there. It would take something nuts, winning out, other team losing out is where you start to see a wobble there. The reality is we're probably down to some combination of Phoenix, Orange County, Tulsa, and San Antonio getting the final 2 playoff spots. And I don't think Phoenix is dropping out. So is any of those 3, Orange County, Tulsa, San Antonio, can any of you go grab it? San Antonio's got a 4-point gap to make up too, which is why my mind is telling me no.
But the table is telling you, yeah.
San Antonio to me is the most likely to have a run and the least likely to get it done because of where they are in the table now. I'm probably going Orange County.
You're sticking with Orange County. I'm sticking with Tulsa.
Okay.
Yeah. Just body of work over the year.
Both teams coming off a win. Yeah, Tulsa goes to Oakland and wins. Orange County hosts Phoenix. They were off this past weekend. 1-2-0. They played them on Wednesday night.
Get me to the postseason in the West.
All right. When we come back, some games to watch. Also, a quick commentary from Devon. Orange County, something a little off in the model. We talk about it when we come back.
You're listening to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back on USL All Access, and the way this one's going, it might be our last. Not because we're going anywhere, but because we might not get asked back. With Devon, Mike. Dev, let's chat about Orange County for a moment. They make the change mid-season out of necessity, right? Coach goes overseas, so, here's Danny Stone, but it's yet another new guy in a unique situation. It was Paul Hardiman. You let him go. In past years, it's Richard Chaplow. It's Braden Cloutier. It's a year where Orange County may not get the interim manager bump they need.
No, and I'm wondering as to whether or not they need to reassess the model overall, Mike. Because even if you go back actually to before Braden Cloutier became an assistant in 2015. He was there for 2.5 years and took over as the head coach, as he should have, in 2018 after the departure of Logan Pause. But after Oliver Weiss stepped to the sideline, they had Barry Venison, they had Logan Pause. Braden came in, he had that window. Those teams, 18, 19, really, really good. 20, it was COVID. Everybody got a pass. It wasn't what it needed to be. And 21 went south. It wasn't to their liking. But since then, it's basically been bring the staff in. It doesn't go well. Next guy up. Outside of Richard Chaplow, that hasn't worked. You hit lightning in a bottle once. Now you're on 5 coaches in 4 seasons. Oliver's not there anymore. He's in the front office of the league. The mastermind of a lot of that. Not saying responsible for all of the success, but certainly had his hands there. I think it's time for them to go out, Mike, and they need to make a real coaching search and go after someone who's got a vision for this club that combines both senior level inconsistency with successful development of players. They need to bridge the gap. It's gotten too wide apart, and it's this wash, rinse, repeat, a revolving door that sees no success.
I would say Morten Carlson, it worked. He just went back home. The reality
you think Morten Carlson's team was going to win a title?
Win a title, not with this particular core of players, but I don't think that's a Morten Carlson problem.
Gotten into the playoffs.
They certainly would have been in the playoffs. And
let's
be
clear.
Orange County
is outside. Orange County is outside of the conversation of let's get into the playoffs. Fair?
Yeah.
Done.
Mm-hmm. Dev, one game you desperately want to watch this week.
Oh, I'm looking at the schedule now, and I know I was supposed to be ready for this.
All right, I'll go first. Hartford hosting Loudoun.
Good game. Yeah. Play up. Well done.
2 years ago, we're talking about this being meaningless. This year, it very well could decide a playoff spot.
I'm going to take the Sac San Antonio game.
Mm.
Because to your point, although I didn't pick them, I do believe San Antonio has the ability to get themselves over the playoff line. It's a must-win situation and also a quote-unquote recovery game for this Sacramento Republic team that's coming off one of the best performances of the year. And they need the points just as badly as San Antonio because they want to retain the 2 spot in the West.
All right. Meanwhile, the Shield could be won on Golasso Network. Louisville and Indy 11. It's the Louisville-Indianapolis Proximity Association football contest. That is Saturday night as well and worth a watch. Dev, learn anything in this show?
Yep, still can't tell time.
And I can't sing. For Devin, Mike, we'll talk to you again next Tuesday night. Thanks for listening, everyone. So long for now.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.